This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning into the program. It's Friday, November the 7th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams. He's producing the Come On With It edition. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial to get in the queue and on the air is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So I suppose we should check in on the women's under-18 nationals out in CBS and Mount Pearl. Last night, Team Atlanta came up with a big win in the quarterfinal over Manitoba, beat them 4-1. So a pretty handy victory. I'm not exactly sure how the tourney works because today they play at noon in Mount Pearl against Saskatchewan, but then they're in the semi-final this evening against Ontario Red. Ontario Red has proven to be pretty stern competition, but into the semi-finals we go. Terrific stuff. All right, a couple of local athletes doing big things on the collegiate scene here in the country. Number one, Jessie Penny. She plays rugby at St. FX. She's a prop, led the nation in tries. She was named second team All-Canadian, which is absolutely brilliant stuff. I think she also signed on to play basketball at St. FX, so two-sport player out there. And Zoe Rowe, for the second year in a row, has been named first team All-Canadian. Absolutely brilliant stuff. So we know she led the AUS in goals. Led the nation in goals. She's the AUS MVP. Now a first team All-Canadian. Other Seahawks with the multiple All-Canadian recognition: Mallory Harris, Jessie Noseworthy, and Hannah Rifkin. So way to go to Zoe Rowe, Jessie Penny. That's absolutely brilliant stuff. Couple interesting notes on the Blue Jays front. Can't let it go. So Donnie Baseball leaving the Blue Jays after just 3 years. Not really sure what his plans are into the future. He's been with the organization since 2023. He's been in Major League Baseball over 40 years. Donnie Baseball, not in the Hall of Fame. Real oversight there. And the Jays made a qualifying offer to Bo Bichette. It's pretty fundamental part of the process. No doubt he'll reject it. He's got 12 days, I think it is, to respond to the offer, but we'll see how they handle one of the best hitters in the majors. Okay. All right, so congratulations to all involved with the We Stand On Guard Once More. Benefit concert, of course, for the Canadian Red Cross and the Wildfire Relief Fund. It's coming up on next Monday, the 10th, at Jag Soundhouse, which is absolutely brilliant. So it's sold out, as Buddy Wassey's named the other fellas, the Fables, Shani Ganach, the Ennis Sisters, and more. Even if you can't get a ticket to go to the show, you can tune in live right here on VOCM on Monday evening, 7:30 to 9:30, and an opportunity to donate. All right, so please do indeed take advantage of that great opportunity here. On that front, and the Wildfire Relief Fund is important, obviously. Since we now know a lot more about how some of the residents up on the North Shore were warning about an arsonist on the loose, heard from a person overnight. They asked me to keep their name out of it. I'm happy to do it. So we know the result of the fire, and whether or not it was actually started by this arsonist, I guess we'll wait for the RCMP investigation to conclude. But this one emailer saying they lost their home, and they tried to replace their despair purposefully with anger. And yesterday that was ramped up as they read that story about how many people were sounding the alarm. The red flags were up. They were taking it upon themselves to go into the bush, hide in the bushes, identify the smoke, use their own extinguishers to hold it at bay until the fire department could respond. So no doubt, despair is obvious if you lose your home. I can't imagine what people are going through. But then to know that story has once again, I'll use the word, triggered their anger, and understandably so. Anyway, if you want to take that on, we should indeed be talking about that. All right, a couple of touchdowns on the federal budget. So we've heard a pledge here from Premier Tony Wakeham about refunding the provincial portion of loans or tuition if you graduate and stay here and work. On the federal level, there were some pledges coming, what they call the Canada Student Loan Forgiveness Program. Basically, the federal portion of any outstanding loans would be forgiven for family doctors, nurses working in rural and remote communities. Social workers are asking, where's the focus on them? They are part of the healthcare system, no doubt about it. And for many people, social workers are the first point of contact, especially when we talk about more rural, remote parts of the province. And they work through a variety of areas in this province. So if anyone representing the Social Workers Association and or individual social workers would like to join us on the show, let's do it. We have a social worker shortage, just like many other facets of the healthcare system. So any incentive for a federal portion of outstanding loans to be forgiven would, no question, pique the interest of someone who has any interest, period, in becoming a social worker. And they do so many different things here. For certain healthcare disciplines, we know exactly what they do and where they work. Social workers, they're everywhere. So they've been left out of the federal budget on this front, not named specifically, and that's a concern, I would suggest, given the importance they place, that they are, regarding first point of contact, and we should indeed be talking about it. All right, let me bring this one up here. Good morning, and thanks a lot for the hard work from Matt Partner. Matt's done a lot of important work regarding expenses at Memorial University and a variety of things. This one, he submitted an access to information about offloading hours for ambulances. So we've been told, and I'm still not quite sure how the amalgamation of the road and air ambulance service is going, but red alerts. So you call for an ambulance and there's not one available. We used to categorize it and count it as a red alert. People working in the ambulance industry or the business are told we can't use that phrase anymore, which is ridiculous. There's got to be a way to track exactly what's going on, and a red alert is one of those key indicators. Now when we talk about the hours of offload, so basically, when an ambulance shows up at the emergency room, someone has to take that patient from the first responders, the paramedics, so that they're under the care and control and the liability of someone at the hospital. But far too often, the ambulance is parked there for hours on end, waiting for that patient to be offloaded. It's kind of a cold way to put it, but offloaded to the emergency department personnel. So here's some of the numbers here. As a result of his access, this is through the month of August in 2025, 1,786.2 hours of offloading delay. At the Health Sciences Centre, 1,064.5 hours. At St. Clair's, 712.8 hours. At the Janeway, 8.9 hours. Obviously, when the first responders make their way to an emergency 911 call, they pick up the patient, they offer whatever care and treatment is required at that point, and then waiting all that time to offload their patient at an emergency room. Obviously, that means the possibility for more of these red alerts to take place because they're sitting there waiting to offload the patient. So good work by Matt to get some of those updated numbers, and that's just through August of 2025, so he can only imagine it's worse than that at this point. All right, let's move on here. We've talked about plastics and the prevalence of plastic, whether it be at the grocery store or any retail outlet, and what it means for getting into the ocean and consequently into food supply. I haven't found anything. Researchers have found microplastics at the highest mountains everywhere on the planet, including in the ocean. And now research comes from Dalhousie, and I'll couch this with saying the levels of microplastic that they found in lobster meat does not, at this point, pose any sort of risk to human health. But the issue's only getting worse. So at Dalhousie School for Resource and Environmental Studies, and it's a pretty small sample size, 16 lobsters from 4 different areas in the province. This research began back in 2022. So they're averaging 6 to 7 microplastic particles per gram of meat. All right, and again, people in the seafood industry pushing back, saying this is a bit more about fear than it is about health implications, because at this point, they're kind of unknown. But we do know researchers have looked at microplastics and their presence in placenta, which could have an impact on the fetus's development. So I don't know, when the pushback was, doing away with the single-use shopping bag. And, of course, people use them for more than one use to bring the groceries home. So that happened, and there was plenty of pushback there. And, yes, there's an argument to be made about how environmentally friendly some of these multi-use bags that we all use these days are in comparison. But there's just think about it when you go to the store next time. And you walk in, you're going through the produce section, and there's cucumbers there that are all wrapped individually in plastic. Now, some of that is pretty biodegradable, given the thickness and the way it's manufactured, but the overuse of plastic is wild. Go and buy, let's see here, what's a good example? Go to Costco and buy a bottle of ibuprofen. So in the bottom third are the pills, and the top third, 2/3, is just plastic. So I don't know why we don't see a little bit more pushback on that front, knowing how bad it is for the environment. And I'll tell you why the pushback is minimal. Because the oil and gas industry and the power of their advocacy and their lobbyists is because that's a big part of their business. But just think about it out loud. Go buy a bottle of ibuprofen at Costco. 1/3 of the plastic is required. The other 2/3 completely unnecessary. Anyway, you want to talk about it? We can do it. Sticking with that area somewhat. So the Canadian Food and Inspection Agency, a couple of notes. It still irritates me, and I noticed this just the other day, about the misleading advertising, marketing, and labeling of different products in grocery stores. When the whole Buy Canada was really being shouted from the rooftops, based on, the commentary coming from the south of the border, it's just patently unfair. So if people are wanting to consciously try to ensure they're buying a product of Canada or something made in Canada, for the CFIA to have identified up-teen examples of misleading advertising, they had something they could do about it, and they could have levied fines, but they didn't. And so consequently, retailers who were having a bit of success with the mislabeling, they're just shrugging their shoulders. What do they care? If they're not going to get fined, they're going to proceed, because they know some of their customers will lean in on the fact that they'd like to buy products of Canada or made in Canada, which are two different things regarding the percentage of the materials used for the final product. And another one that I, for the first time, mentioned yesterday was the ostrich farm in BC. So the Supreme Court of Canada yesterday refused to hear appeals regarding the cull order by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and now it's begun. If you look at, say, some BC media, BC newspapers, it is a huge story. And of course, it's all about avian flu. There were some 69 ostriches died as a result of the avian flu. The owners of the farm said that the remaining ostriches had developed these antibodies to protect them from further spread, but the cull is ongoing now. I saw one short video which didn't show any ostriches getting killed, but you could hear the gunshots in the distance, so it's ongoing. And like many things, I never know what's going to get a reaction until we talk about it on the program. And after I mentioned it yesterday morning, plenty of people chimed in, via email in particular, but if you'd like to have a chat about it, we can do it. All right, let's move into industry. So, for starters, I'm a little bit surprised we haven't heard more about the mining sector and expansion of, and the possibilities to even create our own supply chain, because we're sitting on a wealth of critical minerals. A wealth of them. So I really thought, given that the world is clamoring for these critical minerals, and we've got trade wars and potential land wars to be fought over critical minerals, where are we? So thankfully for the mining sector, there's been an expansion in the tax credits inside the mining sector. So specifically, fluorspar and manganese. We know that the Singapore-based Ahmed funds, taking over the fluorspar mine on the Burin Peninsula, this is probably a good boost for their business model. Same thing with Takora up in Walbush, who are indeed at this moment in time going through a facility in China, I think, to see if their manganese can be developed into high quality concentrate. So maybe Graham Leto, who I think does a lot of work with Takora up in Walbush, you can walk us through what this means. It would certainly be very helpful. But when the mine is extracting the very high purity iron ore, manganese is the byproduct and can be very beneficial to their business model as they try to go through it. So critical mining in this province, I would have thought we'd hear more about it. And on top of that, sitting on the resource that are the minerals below the crust, is there opportunities for what we don't do a whole lot of in this country necessarily, is for that secondary level of processing. Mimic, say, Long Harbour. The jobs that were created in construction and ongoing permanent full-time high-paying jobs, I wonder where those opportunities lie. But Mr. Leto, if you're listening, it'd be great to have you on. Stick with Labrador. I wasn't going to this morning, but the Upper Churchill. So there's a new outfit or organization been created called Force NL, trying to push forward this MOU to definitive agreements into the future, maybe by next April, which was the Quebec-imposed deadline. And we can get into all the moving parts of the Upper Churchill MOU, but let me paint a picture back to when the press conference was held at the Rooms. Even if we just talk about the recommendations from Justice Lebeau and the Muskrat Falls Inquiry, needing an independent review of major capital projects. They use a pretty low number of $50 million, but we're talking about $500 billion worth of monies to flow if indeed we get to the finish line. Given that recommendation, given the people's perspective of mega projects, given our understanding of what happened at Muskrat, given the concerns people have with the province of Quebec and Hydro-Quebec, how different would the conversation be today? That knowing full well there would be a lot of people and a lot of loud voices talking about this MOU and the lack of additional independent oversight. So as opposed to what the province did, or I guess the government of the day, political appointees of 3 different individuals to conduct the review, and they seem to have been hamstrung. Look no further than Mike Wilson's resignation letter. They bring in an outfit called Power Advisory and JP Morgan Chase to have a look at it, but only parts of it, which is, again, just sort of self-inflicted wounds here. Had the province picked Power Advisory or JP Morgan Chase or whoever, and the day after that press conference with Legault and Fury and others, had the next day said, okay, in accordance with Justice LeBlanc's recommendation, we are now moving to the next steps, and it will be JP Morgan Chase is now going to take look at the entirety of the MOU. The conversation would be so much different. Now, for some people, they would simply reject it no matter what. And, it's all about if you pay a company, then you're going to get your own desired result, even though these companies and their reputation are a bit more important than liberal fortunes or futures here in this province. So I just think back and wonder, man, why didn't we just do that? It was always going to come to it at some moment in time, under whatever layer or level of pressure was going to be brought to bear. But I think we'd be talking about it a lot differently here today if that was the case. All right, someone wants me to talk about the fixed link again, whether or not it constitutes a nation-building project that could be fast-tracked by the federal government, and we can take it on if it's something of interest to you. And I'll dig in a little further because there's a couple of reports to compare and contrast. But I want to get through these couple. You'd swear no one's ever crossed the floor in the House of Commons. It's unbelievable, the commentary. People can feel betrayed as constituents of Chris D'Entremont. Fair enough. If you voted for party and not person, then your vote, you will indeed be concerned about how it worked out. But for the Conservative Party of Canada, another blow yesterday. So one of the Conservative members, a fellow named Matt Genereux, he's resigning. He's not crossing the floor. He's not going to sit as an independent. He's simply resigning. And, it's the old go-to line of wants to spend more time with family. He's not pointing the finger of blame at Mr. Poilievre like D'Entremont did. He said he's leaving because of Poilievre's leadership style. Whether or not that's the 100% truth, I don't know. And I'm sure people will opine on it. But it's the way the reaction is coming in. Civics is maybe not that well understood, and I don't pretend to know every moving part of the Westminster parliamentary system, but the floor crossings have happened forever. But yet, all of a sudden this time, maybe it's the fact that it brings the Liberal minority parliament that much closer to a majority, because now there's just one vote shy of getting through confidence motions. The formal vote on the budget isn't for a couple of weeks, but there was a confidence motion yesterday that was tabled by the Conservative Party, and they got through that one. There's another one today being brought forward by the Bloc, bloody Bloc. But anyway, I just don't quite understand how so many people are just so outraged. It's not that long ago that the Conservative Party were the beneficiaries of people crossing the floor as Liberals to join the Conservatives. So I guess it's the minority to majority possibilities that makes so many people so upset about this. But anyway, another budget-related item, and this is about the Atlantic Fisheries Fund. Let's go back once again to a big, glitzy, glossy press conference at the Rooms when then Premier Dunderdale announced the establishment of the Fisheries Fund. And at that time, it was going to be $280 million from the feds, $120 million from the province to create this fisheries fund to modernize the fleet and the plants. Then, lo and behold, that never came to pass. And there was a bunch of foolishness as to why that never actually happened. And it was about, doing away with the minimum processing requirements. And the Fed said, well, we didn't do a careful calculation of what that meant financially to the province. So that was nonsense. But that was the reason they offered. Then years down the road becomes the Atlantic Fisheries Fund. It's once again at $400 billion, but it's for the full Atlantic Canadian provinces and their fishing fleets inshore and the plants. So dramatically different than what it was initially announced. Now, in the federal budget, no real specific mention of what that looks like into the future or any increases coming. It's a highly competitive global market. The need to be able to modernize the fleet and the plants so they can have a real leg up in the competition. Pretty important stuff. So I don't know if Dwan Street at the FFAW would like to speak to it, but it is a glaring oversight. It's still an important industry, not right across the country, but it certainly is here. We're still talking about $1 billion plus industry, and the need to modernize is obvious, just like everything else that we talk about here. All right, how are we doing on the phone, Dave? Let's get it going. very quickly before we go, I want to say congratulations to our good friends, sister station, right down the hallway here at Hot 99.1. Yesterday, they conducted their own radiothon, raising monies in support of the Single Parents Association. They did a great job. It sounded great, and they raised about $30,000. So thanks to everyone who contributed, and a big shout out to Brad and Kaylee and whoever else was working on that radiothon yesterday and their volunteers. Great effort, sounded great, $30,000 later, bravo. We're on Twitter, or VOCM Open Line, follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. That only happens if you're in the queue to talk about whatever's on your mind. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Leonard. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you this morning?
Very well, thank you. How about you?
Pretty good, sir. Just wondering, I know the transition over to the new government takes a while, but it's been a week today, I think, when the elected members got their portfolios, the ministers. I'm having trouble getting over to the Honorable Mike Guzny, Minister of Responsible for Workplace and Health. So just wondering if somebody from government can call your show and give me that information, because I have a matter that needs to be addressed ASAP.
Look, I'm with you, Leonard, and we hear from plenty of people about the inability to contact their newly elected member or re-elected member. Like, even just as recent as yesterday, when Sarah Studley was on the program, usually before the member comes on, I just put it into the Google bar, Sarah Studley MHA, and, just remind myself of whether it be here at the district or what have you. None of it's up. Like, none of it is up. If I Google Mike Guzny, MHA today, it'll bring me to the list of the members of the 51st General Assembly, but no contact information for bulk of them, including Mr. Guzny. So I don't know what's taken so long. They've been sworn in a week, and I get the transition business, but putting up contact information is the least they could do.
Yeah, I did the same thing you did, Patty, and same information or lack of information came up. I had no problem getting the constituency office for Premier Wakeham. I contacted their office yesterday, but no one has reached back to me. In the past, I've reached out to Pam Parsons' office because she owed that portfolio when she was in office, but then again, when I reached out to them, I didn't get any satisfaction from their department as well with the issue that I do face myself today. So I'm hoping that the new elected government with the Honorable Mike Guzny will be able, his office will reach out to me sometime. Like I said, hopefully they can call your show and give that information out. So, yeah.
Like, even if Mike Guzny or someone working with Mike wants to just even send me an email with a point of contact, I'll get it to you right away, Leonard, because all of the newly elected members, like if you're re-elected, their contact information remains the same. It's for their constituency office and or for their office at Confederation Building. But all the newly elected members, no contact yet. And I do understand that things take time, but a week to establish a phone number, I don't know, man. Even if they put up their personal cell or something for their constituents, but Mike Guzny, if you're listening or someone belonging to you is listening, please send us a contact number so we can get it to Leonard.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Patty.
Anything else you want to talk? You want to talk about whatever the issue that you need to speak with Mike about? And you don't have to answer that if you want
to. Not really. It's kind of a touchy subject.
Okay.
Like I said, it's out there, but like I said, I've struggled with this issue for several years, and like I said, never got nowhere with Minister Parsons' office at the time with the issue that came up, and I'm open, like I said, like I don't mind repeating myself, but this new elected government, they were supposed to be there for the people, so let's see now what comes from that, you know what I mean? So I voted for them in the past. I've always I supported the party back growing up as a teenager, sporting the PCs with my dad, going out campaigning. So I want to see now if this transition this time around will help me and other struggling injured workers. So that's all I'll say about that, Patty.
Okay, I appreciate your time, and we hope that Mr. Guzny contacts us so we can help you contact him.
Okay, Patty. I appreciate that very much, and have a great day.
The very same to you, Leonard. Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Look, I do know things take time, right? But time is of the essence for so many people here, whether we're talking about industry or whether we talk about briefings for the incoming ministers, all these things. I get it. I'm not going to panic, but people out there that need to speak to who's going to represent them, we need to get that sooner than later. Full, intimate understanding in briefing regarding ministerial portfolios, okay. I mean, the wealth of information that's held in the hearts and the minds of senior bureaucrats, for the most part, they haven't gone anywhere. So we wonder what this is going to look like. So hopefully we can help Leonard out there. Insofar as injured workers go, I mean, I hear from injured workers all the time. Sometimes it's a really difficult issue for me to try to help with because it's a big tangly system. We run up against privacy issues all the time. But even for politicians to be able to advocate for people who are injured workers is something. We had someone on call, maybe it was this week, maybe it was last week, about the fact that she's a single mother, 3 children, and her ability to get her claim adjudicated, she's running out of time. So even for the appeals process, I think the window that they have is 60 days to hear it and come up with some final decision. But far too often we don't hit that target. Is it 30 days or 60 days? Maybe 30 days. But we're not hitting the target. So there's lots to discuss inside the file of workers' compensation, obviously. And yes, hopefully we can get some contact numbers for the newly elected members sooner than later. Let's get a break in. When we come back, we're speaking with you. Glenn's a homesteader. He wants to talk about the storm surge that we just recently suffered, and then we're speaking with you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Glenn, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you? It's been a long time.
I'm doing great. How about you?
Pretty good, Patty. I guess first I'll throw out a bouquet. I think the last storm we had was on the 5th of November, the first and the storm surge. And I want to throw a bouquet out to, we're homesteaders. I guess a little background. We started in April of this year, Patricia and I, and this is our first winter. I left Mirasheen Island in 1968 for resettlement, and she was 9 when she left St. Joseph's. So here we are back, living our dream, living off the land. But I want to say the last storm, Kelly and Matthew Clark, people know them as YouTubers in St. Joseph's. We're a very close-knit family down here. And during the storm, we had to leave to go to Rushoon, Marystown, to do business for a week. The storm came in, and they came over and took care of our place. I had a Zodiac floating away into rocks and other things because I wasn't thinking first time into it, you know what I mean? I remember surges years ago in Placentia when I grew up there as a young boy. Many times it flooded. So I'm not going to get into global warming or anything, as this has been happening around here according to people that have lived here all their life. Storm surges have been happening for 60 years when people first lived here. So Matthew and Kelly came over and done all that. I just want to throw out a bouquet. And it's just sometimes it's nice. I listen to you every night, dude. Bill Rowe. I can just go on and list the people and VOCM and what you guys do. And I'll tell you why I'm a little emotional, right? Because not only do I get to live my dream, she gets to live hers. And I asked her to marry me not too many hours ago, and she said yes. So, like, good things happen, man.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
But other than that, I just wanted to throw that bouquet out, and you know, life is wonderful. It's not an easy venture. It comes with its difficulties. But when two people have the same dream, which is a rare thing in life, I know for me and her, you know, we're senior homesteaders here now, and we're just loving everything. It's amazing. Every morning I wake up, and except for today, the water is usually 20 feet from the cabin, but today it's about 3 feet, right? So, but other than that, I just want to say thank you, Patty, and it's awesome listening to your show. And I just want to, like I said, the world is full of such negativity. I just thought I'd just bring something positive today, you know?
I'm glad you did. I could always use a little bit more of that in my life, certainly in my professional life. Glenn, describe what kind of homesteading you got going. What are you doing on your property?
Well, we started in April, so when we first got here, we had a cabin that was in disrepair, a 30-year-old cabin that nobody had lived in. So you can probably imagine that, right? Next to the water and all the weather, and, you know, the front of it is bang up to the southwest here in Placentia Bay. But that's the only bad one we get, which is a prominent wind here, the southwesterly, more than the rest of them. And it's, like I said, we started a few gardens. We grew some turnip and cabbage, and I've never grown that stuff before. I know her father and my dad, you know, her generation, her family's generation, they were all involved in that. But I'll tell you what, you know what's really weird is your instincts and how you become resourceful. And, I don't have something to fix that. Oh, yeah, you do. You just got to think differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? Because if you leave somebody in an environment long enough, you'll either adjust or go crazy, right?
Yeah, good on you. Are you planning on having any animals as part of your homesteading operation, or just going to stick with
we are.
Okay.
Patty, I just want to, we did have when we started out, we had a rooster and a chicken. The first night I brought them home and took them out of the box, I thought it was a good idea. And, of course, chickens don't like cats. And they flew away. We never seen them, but yes, the plan is some sheep, some goats, kind of like Kelly and Matthew Clark, kind of the same thing, but not as much. I don't need as much. But you know, chickens for eggs, little milk goats, whatever. And I don't know anything about it. I'm learning as I'm going, but we have a few mentors around. And another thing, another bouquet I want to throw out to is Gord Peavy, who is just an amazing guy. Just an amazing guy that's helped us so much with making our dream come true. Imagine somebody helping you make your dream come true, man. It's so cool, dude. It's a good story, Patty.
It absolutely is. And there's a really helpful, strong homesteading community out there. They have a hugely popular Facebook page that I think has been very helpful to folks getting into it maybe for the first time or trying to expand. And then it's the concept of, once people get established, it's sharing and trading and bartering. And it's a real cool little ecosystem.
And we're never stuck. It's, Kelly and Matthew here for the winter, Delanne and Patricia, and her brother, Gord Peavy. And I'm thinking, and we're tight for a reason.
Yeah, good on you. Before I let you go, listen, hearty congratulations on your pending nuptials. Good for you.
Hey, Patty, Listen, and by the way, just to let you know that I'm not that savvy when it comes to YouTube and the internet, but we've been so busy, and we're still busy since April. You can imagine the work that's involved without animals, just getting ready.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So, but when it comes to the social media part, we're going to get there, but not ready. But we do have lots of videos and all that, and we will put it together as soon as, maybe when I talk to my son. He's really good at that. But we've been so busy that we want to share. And also I want to say to people, it's a great way of life. It's a great way for someone like me that suffered from PTSD all of his life, that there's other medications, Patty.
Yeah, listen, good on you, Glenn.
That's it, bro. That's it, bro. Keep up the good work, Patty, but I'm listening all the time.
I appreciate you tuning in, and I appreciate your time here this morning. Good luck.
No worries. Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. There you go, a little bit of good news there, right? And speaking of the storm surge in St. Joseph's, man, yet again the folks at Trepassey, the breakwater had taken a pretty serious beating, and now it's been walloped with the most recent storm. So whether the mayor or anyone wants to chime in, because that breakwater has proven not to be able to withstand the fury of the water. Let's go to line number 1. Say good morning to Connie Pike with Miles for Smiles. Good morning, Connie. You're on the air.
Morning, Patty. How's it going today?
Doing okay, thanks. How about you?
Good. Patty, the numbers, the court numbers in relation to child abuse charges for October, I wanted to report on. There were 418 charges listed in all 10 courtrooms in the province, and 74 people were charged with those 418 offenses. Patty, to put things in perspective and to remind people that we're not exempt from what goes on in the world, I wanted to talk about our global numbers. There's a study that recently came to my attention because I was preparing to do some work for Miles for Smiles during October, which is Child Abuse Prevention Month. So I was searching for numbers. And one really disturbing statistic that surfaced in a 2020 study by UNICEF was that globally 1 billion children experience some form of abuse, including physical, sexual, emotional trauma, and neglect every single year. 1 billion children in the world every year are affected by abuse. And that works out to 2 million, almost 800,000 every single day. And that translates into 31.7 cases every single second. Every second of every day of the year, Patty, almost 32 cases. And I would venture to guess, just given what's happened in the past 5 years, this study is 5 years old. And during that time, COVID happened, and we all know that the numbers of cases of abuse involving children and women were off the charts. We know that in our own country because of the number of facilities, I call them refugee camps, as opposed to shelters for women and children. The refugee camps were full, overflowing, and the numbers were way up. There's also, in the past 5 years, been a lot more cyber crimes, exploitation of children. That wasn't factored into this 5-year-old study. And if we just think about the children who have been affected in Ukraine and in Gaza in the past 5 years, this number would be low. This 1 billion number, that's almost 32 cases every second, would be low now by today's standards, in my opinion. And Patty, that reeks to me of a global epidemic. And I just keep reminding people in this province that we are not exempt, as evidenced by these numbers I just gave you for October: 418 cases, 74 people charged, and that's only the numbers, Patty, that make it to court. So again, I want to just emphasize to people that this is a very, very serious issue. We need to do more, we need to do better, and awareness, education, those are the keys to eliminating this problem. And we're far, far, far and away from eliminating. So that's very disturbing, I believe.
Yeah, well, I think everyone would think the exact same thing. And I mean, you mentioned that these are just the numbers reported, because if you read different jurisdictions, probably different kinds of numbers, but even in Canada, somewhere around 10% is the reporting rate, and using the numbers that you've brought forward here this morning, I mean, the level of evil required to perpetrate that kind of harm, physically, sexually, emotionally, on a child is just mind-boggling to begin with. And so I don't even know where we start. But As you mentioned, it's the education and awareness piece, but man, oh man, some people are just built evil.
It's really discouraging. I should reiterate again that, yes, about 10% of cases are reported, but way, way less than that. About 2%, maybe 3% make it to court. So we're looking at a lot more numbers than I report on, Patty. The other thing I wanted to mention was I heard you speak to a caller on Monday. I think their movement was called Voice for the Voiceless. They were having a rally, I think, in Carbonear or Harbour Grace to support animals who are being abused. And I don't have anything scientific to report, but as I'm going down through all of the court cases, I have noticed a trend. Now, in order to get exact numbers, I would have to start counting those cases too, but it's certainly become more obvious to me that there are more crimes being committed against animals, and more animals are being abused. Some of this results from, cases of domestic violence wherein animals are used as pawns, the way children are, and animals are threatened and animals are often abused just to make a point. So, but I have been noticing a trend in that number ticking up, and that is disturbing as well. The other thing I would like to mention in your preamble, you mentioned about the fluorspar mine in St. Lawrence, and maybe to give people a little context, I'm from St. Lawrence, and as a child growing up, you didn't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out what was happening around you. The mine in St. Lawrence was owned by Alcan, and people might recognize that name because they make aluminum foil, and you need fluorspar to make aluminum foil and other items, but that was their big shtick at the time. There were two processing plants in Canada, but the only fluorspar mine in the country was in St. Lawrence. And the average life expectancy of a miner in St. Lawrence was 47 years of age. And these miners were dying left over right because of insufficient ventilation systems, well, practically non-existent. And when these men would die at the age of 47, they often left large families without a breadwinner. And it was a very sad piece of history in our town. We had a lot to be proud of in terms of our rescue efforts in 1942 with the trucks and Pollocks. But the mine had a very disturbing history in our town, and it closed during the 70s because Alcan Company refused to pay miners a comparable wage to the plant workers in Arvida, Quebec, and Kitimat, BC. And so they shut the mine down when the miners asked for parity, and they went to they went to Mexico for their fluorspar source. And so I know that Canada has a new relationship now with Mexico in terms of trading, but I hope Prime Minister Carney will prove good on his word to focus on Canadian businesses, Canadian resources, and I'd like to see our little town boom again with open pit mining. They've been struggling for years, and I think the people in that town paid a heavy price, and I just wanted to provide that context this morning for your remark.
I appreciate your time, Connie. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Fluorspar has a lot of uses: refrigerants and polymers, lithium-ion batteries, hydrofluoric acid. Anyway, let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Say good morning to Jeff Beaton, Regional Outreach Coordinator with Central NL Waste Management. Good morning, Jeff. You're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How are you today?
Great today. How about you?
Good. I just wanted to call in to let your listeners know, and particularly listeners in the Central region, about the Central Clean Sweep that we're having this Saturday from 10 to 2 at our regional site in Norris Arm North. So the event is going to highlight our recycling programs. The ones in particular are the used oil, oil filters, antifreeze containers, our electronic products recycling for approved end-of-life electronics, and Product Care Association, so that's the leftover paint. So the event now, we're going to have some, there'll be informational handouts there. We're going to have some refreshments, some muffins, some donuts, some stuff to eat, and we'll also have some prize draws for everybody who's dropping off an item. They'll be able to enter their name for some prizes. We've got a food recycler that was generously donated by the town of Gander. We've got a beautiful propane fire pit that we purchased for a prize, and we've also got some gift cards, some $50 Canadian Tire gift cards that we'll be giving away.
Nice. So, generally speaking, outside of this sweep on Saturday, what do people in the Central region do for recycling in the first place? And I'm not talking about paint and used oil and stuff, but just general recycling, like for cardboard and plastic and the like.
Yeah, so we have a blue bag program,
okay.
Throughout the rest of the province, and we have a MRF here on site, a material recovery facility on site where all our recycling is processed. So all the blue bags are collected from around the region, and they're all brought here to the facility in Norris Arm, and so that's for the blue bag. That's for our cardboard, our beverage containers, plastics, all that, and of course all that stuff. Including the items that I mentioned for the programs for the event, that stuff can be dropped off all the time. They can be dropped off here at the site in Norris Arm. We also have 7 transfer stations throughout the region where that stuff can be dropped off as well.
Okay. And I mean, I apologize for my ignorance. I'm not so sure how recycling works outside of my own little neck of the woods and the curbside blue bags. Just a quick general question. Do folks accessing transfer stations or landfills in central waste management, do they have to fill out the online application for the facility access card?
There are cards, yes. That so everybody has a card they use for when they scale in and when they scale out to determine the weights, so to see what the cost will be. Now there's no cost for dropping these items off, and we've just introduced a new pay-as-you-go program for anybody who is dropping off waste. So just makes things much more convenient. They don't need to worry about payment thresholds on cards, any of that good stuff. They scale in. They know what they're bringing in, what the items are, what the type of waste is, and then leaving out when they scale out, they can just tap their card and for easy payment, and they're on their way.
So that's the ease for the person using the landfill. What's the benefit to waste management? Is it accuracy, or doing away with so much paperwork and the time would be taken to compile it, or what's the upside here? Because for the longest while there was no such thing as needing to tap a card. It was just go to the landfill, pay your tipping fee, and off you go.
Yeah, well, it makes it more convenient for everybody. Really, it's much more convenient for the users, for if anybody coming to the site to drop stuff off. They don't need to worry about a threshold on a card. They don't need to worry about a balance owing. If the charge is $15, they use their debit card to make that payment, and they're on their way. What would possibly happen in the past is they would go to scale in, drive their truck over the scales. They would see that the load is not authorized, meaning there's a balance owing on the account. They'd have to come back to the admin building, go to the scale office, kind of get that squared away, then they could proceed over the scales. So now that's the thing of the past. They don't need to worry about that anymore. Fair enough.
Before I let you go, Jeff, the details one more time for the sweep this weekend.
Yeah, so it's tomorrow, Saturday, the 8th, from 10 to 2, and it's at our regional site at Norris Arm North. And most people I would think in the central region will be very familiar with the site, and have certainly been here for our, come to the public drop-off to drop things off. But if anybody is new, hasn't been here before, it's the turnoff for Norris Arm North, Route 3-1-09. Take the turnoff to Norris Arm North. You'll drive for about five to 10 seconds, take a right onto the site, and then just proceed on into the road over the scales.
Appreciate your time this morning, Jeff. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks, Paddy.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Jeff
bye-bye.
Beaton, Regional Outreach Coordinator, Central Waste Management. Let's get a break in for the news. When we go back, we're speaking with you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number one, say good morning to the CEO at WorkLive. That's Daniel Goodfellow. And good morning, Daniel. You're on the air.
Hi there.
Welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Happy to do it. I know what WorkLive does, but who are you?
We're a student housing developer. We build housing across the country. We're based out of Montreal, Quebec. But today, most of what we've done recently has been on the East Coast, so in Prince Edward Island, in Newfoundland, and in Nova Scotia.
We launching here in Newfoundland. What's the big story? What's the news?
So we just opened up a new community for students called Westerland. It's right on in the heart of Memorial University's campus. It houses today 677 students that call Westerland home. We opened 2 buildings on September 1st and a 3rd building on October 1st. We're really proud of what we've built for the community here.
What makes the developments that you folks work on student-centric? Is it simply proximity to campus, or what is it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, I think a lot of people who build student housing talk too much about beds and not enough about belonging. I think our goal is to create housing that feels like home. And when I say home, I mean that feels like you belong to a community. So the way we design our student housing, it's not like traditional student housing where it's a bunch of rooms and you go eat food at a cafeteria downstairs and you share a common bathroom. We build it as apartments. And apartments fight isolation because you're in an apartment with 3, 4, or 5 people. So you make friends just by virtue of the fact that you're sharing that space. And then in the buildings themselves, it's not just 4 walls and a bed close to campus. Really the idea is to create programming around the community, around learning, around education, around leaving home for the first time, learning how to cook. We have yoga classes and we have study nights and we have board game nights. And so we really try to create that sense of community. When students moved in, the first thing we gave every student was a door stopper to keep the door of their apartment open. That's really the philosophy that we have when we run our student housing.
To that end, how do you approach, it's one thing to have that concept and the door stopper and the sense of community, but also the sense of security.
Right. So that is really important to us. A lot of students. Look, when we came to Newfoundland, what we saw was a story that we've seen in other places, where students were living in basements in houses that were close by. They were desperate to find housing that suited their needs. Some would have to travel 20, 30 minutes to get to school. And really, what we call that is the shadow inventory, because it lives in the shadow. It's not a properly organized, thought-for student housing. And so what we look at are things like safety and security. So our building safety is, the best in class. We have everything is run by app. There are cameras all around the site, and in order to get into your apartment, you've got to first clear the front door, and then you've got to get to the door of the apartment. Versus somebody who might be living in a basement where anybody can walk up to the window from the street. So safety is actually something that's really important to us.
Then it's like when we talk about housing here, rent and or buying, it's the whole issue regarding affordability. So you'll have investors, and profitability is not a bad word, and they're in it for a reason. So how do you hit the affordability target? Because I think developers, by and large, are struggling with it. Because it's one thing to build something, it's quite another for someone to be able to afford to live in it.
Oh my goodness, I couldn't agree with you more. And when we look at building anywhere we build, what I tell my team is I don't want to see apartments at $1,000 a month. I don't want to see it. I don't want the student to have to pay that amount of money to live in this place. So before utilities and all of that, our entry level apartment, so for one student, works out to $615 a month. And so when you add on utilities and internet and everything else, you're close to $700 a month. And that's sort of where we want to be. That's, what we think is affordable for students. And so the question is, how do we achieve that? And that is, part of what we work so hard at. So part of achieving affordability is really, managing and controlling design costs and construction costs. I'm not out to build luxury student housing. I'm out to build affordable student housing that respects students. And so there are, some of the frills that students don't need that we do not add. That's part of the recipe. The other part of the recipe is, again, the communal living. When 3 or 4 or 5 students are sharing an apartment, now all of a sudden the cost of putting in a kitchen is divided by more than just one person. Each bathroom, which costs quite a lot of money, is shared by more than one person. And that utility bill is shared by more than one person. So all of those things conspire to bring down the cost.
So scope and scale for the numbers of people living in a unit, plus scope and scale of the development in the first place if I am the investor.
Yeah, and honestly, there's more affordability than just rent, right? The most expensive thing that the student has, that the student invests in, is their education. That 4 years that they're going to school, that they're paying money, that they're not going to work, and so. Just being so close to campus and being so supportive, that means that the student can get a better education. I mean, they're not paying as much for transport. They're not paying as much to get around, and they're going to their classes because they're close by. I mean, there's value to that as well. I don't want to be the cheapest. What I want to be is the option that gives the student the most value.
For the students, is there such a thing as one group of students or another gets prioritized, whether it be people living in this province or international students, or is there a priority list?
No, we honestly, we did not do a priority list. We really wanted to keep it open and even for everyone. What we did do, because we did realize that, some students have a hard time paying, is that we've covered rent for students that need that help the most. So we had a series of grants where rent would be as low as $300 a month for students who are unable to afford even a $600 a month rent. And so our objective has always been inclusivity as much as possible. I will say that the vast majority of the students that are in the building are from Newfoundland. We do have them from across the world, but primarily they're from Newfoundland.
Last one, I think you have a party to celebrate the launch, but last one before we get the details on the party is, how about members of the disabled community?
That's a great question. So we actually included 22 fully accessible units. And when I say fully accessible, I'm talking about, the kitchen is lower, the bathroom has handbars to be able to access the shower and the toilet, etc. And so we have 22 of those. When you build a new building, you have the opportunity to make it fully accessible. So, we have elevators in all the buildings. You can get directly from the accessible parking spot up into your units. Today, we do not have tenants that are using that at the moment. So they're being occupied presently by non-disabled students, but we have that facility if ever a student needs it.
So does that mean that you design using universal design, as they call it, so that, as opposed to retrofitting, which is extremely expensive and it upsets the rest of the tenants while work is ongoing? So is that the starting point for design?
Correct. That is the starting point for design.
Okay. Tell us about the party before we let you go.
So unfortunately, the party was canceled because of hurricane-like winds. We were unable to get everybody in because there were people flying in, different artists from different places, and also setting up a tent in a 110-kilometer gust of wind was impossible. So we are postponing the party. I would say go on our Instagram and follow our Instagram to find out when the party will take place. We're hoping to be able to reschedule it in a couple weeks. There'll be food trucks. We have artists from across the province of Newfoundland and Quebec that collaborated to create exterior artwork, installation artwork for the buildings. These are permanent installations. Those artists will be at the party. They'll be giving art talks about their art, about their inspiration. We're going to have musical artists that are going to be present from Newfoundland Newfoundland to put a little bit of ambience, a little bit of energy out there. And we would love to have not just students at MUN, but the entire community to be there. This is a celebration of something we're bringing to MUN, to the province. And so everyone is invited. The announcements will be up on our Instagram page. It's the Instagram, just search for Westerland, and you'll find it.
Appreciate your time this morning, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care now.
You too. Bye-bye. Daniel Goodfellow, CEO at WorkLive. Very quickly, want to give a shout out and say big thanks to Stephanie Curran. Stephanie Curran works with the NDP as one of the media contacts. So when we were looking for contact information for Mike Gusney, she sent it to us. So it's not a phone number, but all of the members will now have an established Newfoundland and Labrador government email address. So Mike Gusney is simply mikegusney@assembly.nl.ca. So that's that one. And all the other members will have the similarly constructed email address. The only exception is Sheila O'Leary. Maybe because of how Sheila spells her name in the Gaelic fashion, Sheila's is simply S. O'Leary @assembly.nl.ca. So thank you very much to Stephanie for providing that. And we got that information to Leonard, so hopefully that helps him. Let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Cyril. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy.
Good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Yes, no, phoning about the roads out there in the Southwest Dime out in this area. Well, last night I know it was pretty bad. I was over in Clownville pretty late. I won't get into that. So anyway, I ended up I didn't come home. I couldn't get home, of course, because about 10 o'clock. I phoned my nephew. He got off of work out in Isles Cove. Took him 2 hours to get from Isles Cove down to Southwest Army. So anyways, this morning I went and I picked up my car, stayed up to my daughter's all night, and picked up my car around almost 8:30, and we left to come down. Well, certainly we had to leave Hillview to go over to 80 down, but that road, the Hillview to St. Jones's, that was treacherous. I never, well, we did meet a plough that just turned off at the Trans-Canada to go down there. So anyway, we came on over to come down Southwest Dime, and that's the road leaving Trans-Canada. You go to Southport. So anyway, we left up there, and I had a mind to stop and stay up to the highway in the parking lot there. So anyways, we ventured down. It took me over an hour. It's only like a 20-25 minute drive down here to my home, and it took me over an hour to get down. And from the Trans-Canada to Hodges Cove was the worst. I never seen there was places there's a foot and a half thick and not only solid ice. And I don't know, it didn't look like it was either plough or anything went over it to me. And no sand, no salt or sand or anything on it. And we have halfway down, I guess you call it, up in Little Archie, we have a pit there. The high roads usually have sand and a truck there. They have a driver down this area. But they haven't been no sand put there yet the year. Usually they put 15 or 20 loads of sand up there all the time, and they got a load up for loading it and aboard the truck, and the truck was stationed there all went along. So like we're gone into November month now, and there's nothing rigged out for it yet. Like apparently I was talking to someone this morning, and they told me there was very little trucks even ready with plows or anything on them for the plow any snow. Now, at that part, I don't know if it's true or not. Just, only you ask people talking, I'm not sure. But anyway, it wasn't very good for anybody or any ambulances or anything to try to get over this road today. It was just wicked.
You're not the first person to tell me about the similar stories here this morning. So I don't know what the schedule it is for the highway depots to be ready for winter, and all the ploughs on the applicable trucks to be done, and all the mechanics on site, and all the machinery to be ready. I don't know. But I've got a dozen people told me very similarly where they live, the roads were not touched, and the sand was not in place, and the ploughs were not ready. So I don't know what the schedule is. And remember, Premier Wakeham has pledged to return to 24/7 snow clearing. 24/7 is fine, but what about now? Because the snow happened last night. So I don't know the answer to that, but I'm trying to find out.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? We got some of the same operators, and I know how it works. You know, you got your supervisor, and he's the guy who steps up and says, "Okay, guys, it's time to look on the plows and get the trucks, get the sand in them, and get ready and everything." But you take yesterday evening after supper when this started. Well, like I said, I won't get into why I was over in Clonmel, but we came over there. That was 10 o'clock. And the signs along the highway, you couldn't see them. They were baked in snow. So like we had a lot of snow coming in a pretty short period of time. And like I said, down to Trans-Canada wasn't too bad. Now, for all that, my nephew told me out around Sunnyside there was a car off the road, ambulances out there couldn't get through or whatever with ICMP. And but he came on and like I said, we went down from right down through Elview, right down to the last house. That's where my daughter lived, and I don't know really how we got down. And same thing coming back this morning, but she got good winter tires and that on a car, and I guess we mucked on through. But like I said, I left the Trans-Canada and come down here. Now I see it was buses up there. I don't know if they run or not, but there's nothing down there. Now just the same, we had the power gone. I don't know if it's on yet or not. I'm running off a generator right now. I don't know if it's back on or not, but it's been gone since last night at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, we just lost our power briefly the other night at the height of the storm, but it happened overnight. So only reason I know we lost is because the clock was blinking when I woke up. Yeah. So it sounds like you got a lot of snow compared to what we got. We just got a little skiff of snow in here.
Well, Paddy, I'm going to tell you this one now. When I left my car to my son's in 80 Town, and I went back to get her this morning, and when we turned over to Trans-Canada, he only lives in a few hundred yards length of a baseball field. And when I went in, there was not one blade of snow. You wouldn't make a snowball in around his house or around that area there. But for all that, from the Elview intersection to 80 Town intersection, you can almost see the signs. And from there right on down to Elview, it was unbelievable. So I don't know, and like I said, same thing coming from Clonmel last night, even to the signs out on the highway and snow along the shoulders of the road. So, you know what I mean, to certain areas, I don't know what does it, but we see a lot of that in this area when it's snow or rain, like raining in one place, not raining in the other, or snow or whatever. You know, whatever does it, I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose you get these little microclimates. There's a couple of examples of that here in town. I immediately think of the Lower Battery. You could be sitting, let's just say, downtown on Duckworth Street, and it's freezing cold and the fog is there. You go down the Lower Battery, sit out on the deck, is absolutely scorching, and you can reach out almost and touch the fog. It's just so weird when that happens. Sarah, I appreciate the time. We'll follow up with the preparedness for ice management and snow clearing as soon as we can.
Oh, yes, okay, thank you.
Appreciate your time. Bye-bye. Yeah, isn't that odd, though? I mean, there's certain places like that. It certainly reminds me of living in Alberta in the mountains. It was bizarre, especially when it came to rain. Not so much with snow, but where you could be playing golf and standing on the tee and it's not raining, but you can see the rain falling at the end of the tee box. You could almost just put your hand in and out of the wave of rain. It was just the weirdest thing. All right, let's see here. Oh, for contacting government officials, and this is specifically for cabinet ministers. Even if their specific contact info is not already posted on government websites, you can just go to the specific departments. So Minister of Energy and Mines, Lloyd Parrott, his specific contact might not be up, but if you go to the landing page there, contact information for the department will put you in touch with Mr. Parrott. For other members who are not in cabinet, I guess we're going to have to wait for that information to be shared, even though we just gave you an opportunity with an email, how you can reach them via email. But if you're looking to get a cabinet minister and don't see a phone number, just go to the departments itself, and there you go. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the future of the Atlantic Fisheries Fund. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 4. Say good morning once again to the Secretary Treasurer at the FFAW uniform. That's Jamie Baker. Jamie, you're on the air.
Good morning, sir. I don't like to be pestering you twice in 1 week. Unfortunately, the chief is away this week, so you're stuck with me.
Oh, good. It's a topic I brought up off the top. And just if people didn't hear the top of the program today, what we're going to talk about now is the Atlantic Fisheries Fund and the future of. Just for a little history, and not for you, but for the listeners. When this was first initially announced, it was a $400 million pot specifically for the Newfoundland and Labrador fishery and those working therein, whether it be in the fleet or in the plants. That, of course, was $280 million from the feds, $120 million from the province. It never happened. And the feds backed out based on the fact we didn't do some sort of financial calculation of what the loss of the minimum processing requirements were, which was complete and utter nonsense. And then years later it became the Atlantic Fisheries Fund, the same amount of money to be spread around the entirety of Atlantic Canada. Phew, okay, there's that. What's the concern with FFAW right now regarding the Fisheries Fund?
Well, yeah, geez, you really know your history, Patty. I can't knock you on that, old buddy. But I'll tell you, that fund, despite the fact that it was spread around 4 Atlantic provinces, that is one of the few funds that I've seen in several years that has actually provided some tangible stuff you can see with your eyeballs benefits to the fishing industry in Newfoundland and Labrador and, of course, in Atlantic Canada. It's a fund that has provided so much in the way of new infrastructure, technology, advancement, equipment, and, adapting new technology to be more efficient, the whole 9 yards. And, that program basically ended last year, but everybody was really positive and hopeful that we would see that program re-upped this year in the budget. And, up to this point, we've been reviewing all the budget stuff this week. We are not seeing anything in this budget that really people in the fishing sector can be, excited about or even, pin their hopes on. But to lose AFF, we saw that Premier Wakeham noted yesterday or the day before that, this fund is on the chopping block. If that's the case, that is a serious, serious setback for a lot of folks. I can tell you in particular, the lobster fleets in this province, they are in a position right now where they are going to be able to work towards advancing the industry, getting the stuff in place that we need on marketing, getting the stuff in place we need on science, and in particular, the stuff we need on infrastructure to be able to build up our capacity for an industry that's coming at us fast and furious, so at least we can catch up to Nova Scotia. If that fund is indeed gone, that puts us in a stasis situation, and that really is not where we want to be. I'm just at a loss to try and figure out why it is exactly that a fund that's done so much good, and as you said, Patty, it's not a fund that's billions and billions of dollars. It's a fund that has really practical applications that people can see with their eyes. I can't imagine why, when you have a budget that is supposed to spur economic development, you would take away one of the key tools that has helped spur so much development in this sector in the last few years with pennies on the dollar. That's where I'm at this morning. It's just boggling to me.
Yeah, it is odd. And inside the Atlantic Fisheries Fund, we're not only talking about, individual harvesters or plants, but it's also the FFAW who's been on the receiving end, boxing at shore or at sea and the redfish technology and the like. So some examples: automatic jiggers, insulated tubs. There's a few others that have been kicking around over the last number of years, but it's not just about that. It's also about the competitiveness of the global marketplace here. So with the PCs sweeping into government, in large part because of successes in rural parts of the province, maybe, just maybe, this needs to be very near the top of their list of concerns.
I would certainly hope so. And on top of all that, in this budget, Patty, I have to point out that there are very serious concerns about where the federal government, in particular fisheries, is going with their science and resources. I'm going to tell you, we are right now at breaking point when it comes to getting all the proper science and things that we need done at the wharf level to be able to make good decisions about fish stocks out there. And if they're going to cut those, the people on the ground here, I've got to tell you, they are oversubscribed to say the least. I can't say enough about some of the folks we work with here in this province and in this region. This is an Ottawa decision, and if they take resources away from those folks, you look at the mackerel situation. Where would we have been if we'd have had more capacity to do better science? I think about scallops on the south coast. There hasn't been a lick of science done on anything down there in forever, and as a result, you can't make any proper decisions. Everything has to stay status quo because you don't have science to inform it. That blows me away. And again, I got to go back to the tariffs thing that we've been talking about for so long. There's $80 million in place to help with tariff relief, and the only people that can't seem to avail of it are fishermen. It just blows my mind that such a sustainable, renewable industry that has done so much for rural communities is left out of the federal budget while they're touting that this is an economic budget. I don't get it.
You mentioned science. I'm trying to recall some of these projects that got funded. Like up in Torngat, they took the bull by the horns. They actually got funded, can't remember how much the money was, but for advanced imaging, advanced sonar, and that was about Arctic char, I'm pretty sure, at that time. So can you give us an update about some of the regions that have taken that bull by the horn as opposed to simply rely in full on DFO, compilation of science?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, we've done a lot of stuff ourselves in-house. Like, we took it upon ourselves many years ago to get far more engaged in science, and under Dr. Erin Carruthers and her team over there, we've been able to really, we've made a lot of investment in that stuff, and it does cost us money to be involved in it, but it's worth every dime. Anything we can do to augment advancement in this sector, we absolutely must look at doing it. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe as the jigs and reels bleed out, you know how these budget things are. Once you get into the details, sometimes you find that one program is called something else, or maybe there's an adjustment. I'm hopeful that at least before everything lands and everything starts hitting the ground running, we're going to be able to find some pockets to do some of this work that AFF would have done, to find some money to do some of that science that's so desperately needed, and to find a way to include the sector in under tariff relief. Those are the big three. I mean, government has to do a lot of that, Patty. We can invest whatever we can, and our time, our effort, whatever the case might be. But the resources and the facility of all those sorts of things have to come from the people that have their hands on the strings and running the department. So we're hoping to meet with some folks federally in the next little while and provincially as well, because it seems like we are really going to have to start making a lot of noise to get this stuff heard. And if that's what we got to do, then that's what we're bloody well going to do. But we'd like to get it worked out instead of having to be bleating about it and pestering you 2 or 3 times a week.
No, look, I think it's an important matter, and I brought it up off the top of the show for a reason. And just so the listeners understand, it's not just the inshore, and it's not just the plants. It's also offshore. OCI is taking advantage of it. Can't remember, yellowtail, something or other. The aquaculture industry has been able to take advantage of it, trying to, look down the future of oysters and mussels and what have you inside of their industry. So it's the fisheries in full, at large. Anything else while we have you this morning, Jamie?
No, I appreciate your time, and thanks as always, Patty. And it blows me away how you understand some of these complicated fishery stuff. 20 years in journalism, and it took me almost 20 years to get where you are in just a few, so good on you.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, truth be known.
None of us do.
Thanks a lot, Jamie.
All the best.
Take care. Bye-bye. Jamie Baker, Secretary-Treasurer at the FFAW Unifor. Yeah, and again, I don't know why, and I'm not involved in the fishery, but that one has always irritated me. The feds, it's very much like promises about democratic reform. And that election was going to be the last one under the first past the post or the 50+1. And then they came up with this pathetic website and ridiculous arguments as to why they didn't make the change that they had proposed. Same thing here. Like, remember the whole minimum processing requirements. And to be honest, people in the fishery were quite pleased with the issue, because that's what we had to give up to sign on to CETA, to see no tariffs on seafood exports into the European Union. So the give and take, for folks in the industry, they were quite pleased with it. But that whole argument about there wasn't a financial evaluation done of what doing away with or eliminating the minimum processing requirements, man, oh man, how flimsy was that? There was zero mention of that when they created the Fisheries Fund in the first place. None. But it was eventually used as the excuse to scuttle it. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're speaking with you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Say good morning to the volunteer fire chief up in Charlottetown. That's Boyce Turnbull. Good morning, Boyce. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you this morning?
Great today. Thanks for asking. How you doing?
Doing good, thanks. Doing good. Yeah, so just I wanted to, Patty, chat a little about the situation here in Charlottetown. Back in the fall, in October, actually, of 2019, the town lost its diesel hydro-generating plant to a fire. That's been a little over 6 years ago. Since that time, we have had to respond to 2 additional fires, 1 winter fire, 1 summer fire at the site. And our concern is that we know at the time we were told by NL Hydro that if they were to rebuild, I guess, a plant in Charlottetown, it would take at least 3 to 4 years. There was a larger regional facility that was on the plan in the works for the whole southeast coast of Labrador at that time. pending PUB approval. The PUB have turned down that original proposal. It went back and appealed, I believe, and my understanding is that that's been turned down again. Our concern is that we've had 3 fires in Charlottetown. Currently, we supply power to the community of Pinson's Arm nearby. So the residents of Charlottetown and Pinson's Arm since that time has been running off power. Now, no shortage of power, I will admit. Basically from mobiles or generating systems in CCANs, really. That poses additional challenges as well, and I understand from NL Hydro. Winter months in the cold temperatures, there's always the fear of those things freezing up and fires. Summer months, overheating and fires, in which we've seen a case of both. And I guess our concern and what we want to see is what is NL Hydro's plan for the future. I know nowadays, looking at, I guess, the renewables and a lot of areas wanting to get off diesel. I guess we kind of have to work with what we have. And I think, we're 6 years out. If Hydro comes back with whatever they come back with at this point in time, let's say the earliest, I guess the solution 6 years ago was 3 to 4 years out. So here we are. We're going to be 10 years out, still running on mobiles. They've told us that nowhere else in the province runs on a system like we do right now, and it's just not acceptable. I think residents are kind of fed up. There's safety concerns from us as a fire department, and we want them to do better.
So you mentioned the PUB denying NL Hydro's proposed, I think it's like $111 million, a diesel generating station. They turned it down twice. Turned it down in March, turned it down again in October. So here's where we are. I know there's a couple of areas nearby to where you're calling from this morning doing some small-scale solar panel projects. I know one is in Mary's Harbour. I can't remember the other community. But that's some of it. But in the rally cry of we need something now, what could be done short term or in the immediate term?
I think personally, NL Hydro should have and should rebuild a station in Charlottetown. There always has to be a backup system going forward, and then I think they need to work with the towns, the region, the communities, the Indigenous groups to look at a longer term plan. And I know some of that has been in the works, I guess, but and my understanding, some of this has been turned down by the PUB, I guess, because some of those green initiatives and things was not in there. Way back when, I remember in the days when Mushrat was just getting up and on the go, and one of the questions when they were doing community consultations in El Hydra in the communities is why is there a power line passing all up through our communities, just inside of us, and we're not getting anything from that. The comments from NL Hydro at the time was that, well, we can't step down to bring the power to those communities. If we do that, it won't make the project feasible. Well, we know where that went, right? And and we run two communities off Charlottetown, and residents are concerned. We just want to know where to go from here.
So I remember back when that was the argument made by Hydro insofar as feasibility. Is that still their stance today?
Still their stance today. They are looking. One of the options, I guess, that the PUB, I believe, from what I understand, have asked to come back is to look at rebuild a standalone in Charlottetown, a smaller station, standalone. Look at the region, and also look at bringing transmission up through Labrador, and. So I think personally, the long term, I think down the road that could be the answer. But again, I think we're a long ways out, and I think we need something. We need something from NL Hydro. When I asked the question a few years back, is okay, what happens if PUB turns this down? What is the plan? There was no plan. They didn't have a plan, and I still don't believe they have a plan right now. They lost that plant in Charlottetown, and I was told that insurance wasn't even collected from the loss. So yeah, it's not acceptable.
Can you remind me what the generating capacity was of the old diesel generating station that burnt down 6 years ago?
Oh gosh, I don't have that in front of me right now. I know at the time when it did, we did have, because we run Charlottetown and Pinson's Arm. Actually, we run two fish processing facilities. Requires power from there as well. A shrimp processing plant in Charlottetown and one in Pinson's Arm. So I know there was some mobiles on site as temporary backups, and at the time that's back in the original fire. That's why we could restore the power so quickly then. Now I know the power issue, supply. There's lots of power, lots of supply coming from mobiles that's there now to supply the region. We do have outages. Those are always concerns, and gosh, the cost alone must be like, I know they ship those things out from time to time out to St. John's here and have them, the work redone and shipped back in again, full sea cans, and yeah.
Not ideal. Yeah, so it was enough to power up all the businesses and maybe some 300 residents in the two communities you mentioned, so I don't know exactly what that would be, and I also don't know what the required backup supply would have to be insofar as firm output. I don't know.
No, I don't have those numbers here either. I can start to get those, but I don't have those here with me right now. I
appreciate the time. Anything else you'd like to offer this morning, boys?
No, I think that's good. Going forward, I think I know I called a community meeting last year, town hall type. We had over 80% of the residents of both communities show up at that, express their concerns and things, and I think it's time that we take those and step it up a little further. So I'm sure you'll be hearing more from us.
Yeah, please stay in touch when you have any updated information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, boys.
Have a good day.
You too. Boyce Turnbull, Fire Chief in the Volunteer Fire Hall in Charlottetown. Yeah, because, I mean, you can only imagine the frustration. You live in Labrador, and the Churchill River being used to generate so much of the power that's used around the province. I mean, I know there's other capacity, whether it be at Hardwoods or Bay Despair or Holyrood or Deer Lake Power, all those types of things. But when the transmission lines are running right through or just alongside your community, and you don't get any of the power, oh boy. Just one more Labrador-related comment. So I was asked why, and this is from a resident of Happy Valley Goose Bay, as to why we haven't been talking about some of the pleas in the community about the need for an intervention regarding public safety. And a lot of that has been happening for years, whether it be impact of the transient population and some of the fires in one of the emergency shelters last year, and then the 4 fires in one night that has caused a lot of concern. Well, I did. We spoke to it, and more than once, too. So we'll talk about some of the efforts to hire more police officers and what have you, but that's a little bit down the road. So what I will ask for the leadership in Happy Valley Goose Bay, or just residents, if we're talking about immediate intervention to make the community more safe, to allow the residents of Happy Valley Goose Bay to feel more safe, then what specifically are we talking about? And yes, we have talked about it a few times on the show, and deservedly so. Let's get a break in. When we come back, we're speaking with you. Don't go away.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Anthony, you're on the air.
Hello, Patty.
Hello there.
Why I'm calling is that anyway, there's no backups for hydro in Newfoundland and Labrador. The Danny Williams government and the other government, I can't remember, Dunderdale, they made decisions with NL Hydro that they would get rid of, mothball the diesel generators and solely just depend on. The problem is with that is that if we, for instance, I live in St. Anthony, if we get an outage in Deer Lake because they have an ice storm, the whole northern peninsula is out. And you could say that anywhere in the province. If there's a outage, it affects everything. So to me, it's very irresponsible for NL Hydro to not think of people having backups. Within 3 weeks in St. Anthony, we've had 3 power outages. Last Sunday, we had one that went 12 hours. And that's not good enough. Anything that goes on beyond 3 hours we should have backup available. We got a lot of in this community. We got a lot of senior citizens, a lot of pensioners who are fixed income. They cannot afford. Food's expensive. They cannot afford to lose food in their refrigerator because the power's been out. And then to say, well, maybe these people should have their own backup generation. That costs money. So you're talking about people who are on a pension who got limited funds. And 35 years ago, our electricity was a lot more stable. We did not have power outages like we have now. Ever since we've gone with the main grid right across the province, we've had more outage. I lose count of the amount of outages we have every winter, and it's very stressful. All it takes is a nice storm in the middle of the winter, and all of a sudden the next day or within 3 hours, the temperatures drop down to freezing, and your house is froze up. And luckily that has not happened, but the temperatures here are about 10 degrees colder than they are in St. John's in the winter in general. So if you got minus 10 in St. John's, we're probably got minus 15 or minus 20 or more. And this is a very windswept area. We get a lot of high winds, so we got a lot of wind chill factor here. So I really think it's irresponsible, and we're one of the few places in the province that actually have a diesel generator, but it hasn't been put into use to give us any electricity. And also the government over the years has encouraged everybody to go with electricity, and for a person to have a backup for their house, it would cost thousands and thousands of dollars, because if you were heating your house with electricity only, you need a very big generator, which is very expensive. So that's not an option. So I think NL Hydro should be looking at having in areas for regions have backup generators, because, for instance, if the power's out in Deer Lake, or if the lines go down Deer Lake or somewhere in the Straits, why should the St. Anthony area be without electricity? Or you can talk about anywhere else in the islands. So I really think it's the responsibility of NL Hydro. We're paying more for our electricity. So I think it's the responsibility of NL Hydro to make sure they got some kind of backup to prevent people's houses from freezing up or from people losing food because the electricity is out for, within 12 to 24 hours. Anyway, I just thought I would put that up, and hopefully some politicians will look into it.
And I appreciate you doing it, Anthony. Thanks a lot for the call.
You're welcome.
Take care. Bye-bye. And just think about, you talk about backup power. So Hydro doing an evaluation of where to install some additional capacity, landed on 150 megawatt generator, multi-fuel generator, to be installed at Holyrood. I think that's still the plan, but just go back to Liberty Consulting in front of the PUB and talking about what happens if there's a major outage in the Long Range Mountains, poles down, whatever the case may be. They're talking about blackouts or rolling brownouts that could last as long as 45 days, if I remember correctly. So picture the situation if and when there's ever a decommissioning at Holyrood. That is a major issue into the future, because the possibility for severe winter storms in particular, and the ice on the wires are bringing down the poles, and what that will mean, that was pretty dire stuff that never got latched onto very much by the general public or the media, but Liberty, who did a lot of good work in trying to inform people about some of the issues plaguing Muskrat Falls and some of the concerns into the future, and that was one. Let's keep going here. Let's go to line number 6. Say good morning to the General Manager of Stakeholder Relations with Decorah Resources. That's Graham Leto. Good morning, Graham. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Great today. How about you?
Oh, I'm great.
Let's dig into the expansion of the critical mineral exploration tax credits. There's a direct benefit for Tacora. How?
Well, not so much the tax credit, because the tax credit is for the exploration part of it. With Tacora, we would benefit more as part of the budget from the Critical Minerals Sovereign Fund, which is a $2 billion project that will help us to develop the manganese byproduct that we have stockpiled at the Scully mine right now. So that's where we're going to get the biggest benefit. The tax credit is certainly good for exploration of the critical minerals, because this province, Patty, is blessed with a lot of critical minerals, and that could be a big part of our future mining sector in this province as we discover more critical minerals for the electrification of the world, really, in that respect.
So give us a status update of the work you're doing with the Chinese facility on the manganate, or the manganese that's, I guess, a byproduct of the high purity iron ore that's being mined at the Scully mine. So where are we in that process?
Yep, that's so we're looking at ways to use this manganese stockpile that we have, manganese byproduct, which is about 18% manganese, and we have about 3 million tons of that on the ground at Scully right now, and that's growing every day as we continue to produce iron ore. So what we're doing is we're trying to find ways to upgrade this product to high quality manganese concentrate. So there is a facility overseas that is willing to take a 50,000 ton sample to put through their process to see if indeed this product that we have at Scully is able to be upgraded to a product that can be certainly a major revenue source for Tacora. So that right now that we have about 40,000 tons sitting on the dock in Point Noir, which is we need another 10,000 tons, which is ongoing as we speak, to send down there to put on a ship to ship overseas for the test work.
My understanding is the upgraded manganese concentrate is required for things like strengthening process in steel making, lithium-ion batteries. Is the current manganese that you have as a byproduct useful for anything, whether it be in pigments or dyes or some of those, I guess, fringe applications of manganese?
Yeah, well, manganese, as you know, is a critical mineral that's going to be important for development of batteries, for the electrification of vehicles, and it's important in the green steel industry. So yes, this will become a product that is going to be very valuable for the world as we develop and switch out of fossil fuels and get into lower the greenhouse gas emissions and get into more electrification. So manganese is going to be a very important part of that.
Yeah, I guess the way I asked that question was a bit ham-fisted. Is the manganese that you currently have used for anything in particular in its current state, whether it be animal feed or fertilizer or whatever?
No. The manganese that we have in our current state needs to be upgraded to a much more higher quality product before it can be useful in any industry, really. So right now, the product that we have is just sitting there, waiting for. I mean, we'd love to build if this test works. I mean. Maybe it would lead to a new plant, but until we get more power in Lab West, we can't do that. So our hands are tied, and really there are a few options available to us to develop this product. So we're trying everything we can to make this a revenue source for Tacora, but until we get more power to expand and diversify, then really there are not a lot of options left open to us, because as I said, in its current state is not a valuable product.
Fair enough. And I mean, it's one of the things with the Upper Churchill expansion is quadrupling the Labrador recall block to about 1,200 megawatts. But that said, that's over the course of decades as opposed to immediate. Given the fact that you're working in the industry and working in Labrador, and we know that, the Critical Minerals Sovereign Fund and just the expansive wealth of critical minerals and rare earth minerals that we sit on in this province throughout the Labrador Trough and otherwise. Give us an idea about, like, for instance, I thought there'd be way more conversation about the mining sector given the global thirst for these critical minerals, but we haven't seen a whole lot of movement or traction. Give us an idea where the industry is.
Well, as I said, I mean, the future of the mining industry is very bright in this province because there are a number of critical minerals and as you said, rare earth minerals, a lot of which are in Labrador to feed that market. So you're right. There hasn't been a lot of talk, but I think this latest budget and the fact that the province now has gone back to focus on mining in the energy and mining department, I think we're going to see going forward from both levels of government, we're going to see a much stronger focus on the development of critical and rare earth minerals in this province. So the opportunities are there, and if it's done right, if the investments are done right, and it's mined in an environmental friendly manner, then I think the opportunities are there for this province to certainly benefit from the critical mineral resources that they have here in the ground.
Yeah, and let's hope it comes with some secondary processing too, because we do a good job of extraction, not too good on the world of secondary processing, and there's a few reasons why. And just for context, go ahead.
Yeah, but in order to get into the secondary processing in Labrador right now, the challenge will be where we're going to get the power.
Yep.
And so we're depending on, we're looking at a new transmission line coming into Labrador West, but unless we get more generation capacity in Churchill Falls, then there's really nothing to put on that line. So it's a lot of work to be done, but we want to do secondary processing on site because we think the opportunities are there. But until we get this power and being able to do this, I'm sure the investments are there. I don't think that would be the problem. The problem would be having the electricity to fuel the facilities.
Absolutely. Graham, I appreciate you making time for the show this morning. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure. Take care. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye. It's Graham Leto, Stakeholder Relations at Takora. The mining sector is pretty big. Maybe sometimes gets overlooked. Its contribution to, insofar as GDP goes, is around 9.5%. That's the second trailing only the oil and gas sector. So there you go. Let's get a break. And when we come back, Ken's an inshore fisher. He wants to talk about quotas, and then we're speaking with you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Good morning, Ken. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Paddy. How are you?
That's kind to you.
No, not too bad. Heard you there talking this morning on the AFS Atlantic Fisheries Fund there. Okay, that's done with. I did use that for a while, and I got some insulated tubs and that out of it. It was all good, but it's too bad they're not going to keep it going again. But that's not exactly what I called for this morning. This morning, well, I'm an inshore fisherman out here in Carbonear, and the summer when the fishery opened for cod, we were allowed to use 6 nets and a quota of around 3,300 pounds, something like that, per week or bi-weekly. Then that's what that DFO give you. Now the plant will tell you, no, you can only bring in 1,500 or 2,000 pounds a day, and maybe you'll get out tomorrow or next day, whatever. This same story I mentioned before. So there's lots of fish around. You could catch the quota in one day if you want it, but you're restricted by the plants. Now, this is what happened here this morning. We got a new set of conditions this morning from DFO. Here it is in November month. I'm allowed to catch 20,000 pounds of fish a week. I'm allowed to use 24 nets. And this is going to go on till January the 3rd, and maybe even longer. I heard you have up to April. But it says here on this paper that I got printed out from Knowles this morning, January the 30th. So I'm allowed to fish all the winter now, when there's no fish, and the weather like you got today, 40 knots of wind here. I can't fish in this weather, but I got the paper saying I can go. Now, my question is, why is it they're giving out all this quota now? Why couldn't they give it to us in August when the fish was here and we could fish it?
That's a pretty good question. And where would you bring the cod to sell or to get processed at this time of year anyway?
Now that's the next thing. I'm in the wheelhouse of my boat here right now, and I still got gill nets on the stern. The last day I was out was the 26th of October. We got a bit of fish, but I had to drive an hour to get ice first thing. And then if I wanted to sell the fish to the plant, if they would buy it, the only one I know is, the closest one I know is, that's another hour's drive away. So, I mean, the fishery is still open. The plants are all shut down. Like they told me, the refrigeration's turned off down here. They can't keep no ice here in Carbonear. They got that shut down. Same in Portagrave. They got a processing license to process fish. The fishery is open, but they're shut down.
Yeah. So the fact that it's open is of no value.
The fact that it's open, I got £20,000. If the weather was good and there was lots of fish, what's the good of it?
Yeah, no, fair enough. I didn't even know that was the case, to be honest.
Well, that is the case.
Well, you know. You're the fisherman.
I got the paper right here in front of me. I just printed it out this morning. You are authorized to fish 20,000 pounds per week, starting on November the 9th to November the 15th. That's 1 week. And then it keeps on going right up every week until December the 28th to January the 3rd. And then it says the following weekly limits may extend to, depending on the cod supply, or what's left in the quota, I guess he means there. So that could go on until April. I was through outreach meeting there the other day, and the fisheries DFO was there, and they were talking about maybe it won't be shut down until April if the quota is still not caught.
I'm not even sure what to say to that. Sorry, go ahead.
If you do get a good day to fish, and you get a couple of £1,000 pounds of fish. Well, you got to come in here and try to sell it on the wharf. I mean, it's hard to sell 2,000 pound fish in one day. Sell it on the wharf, especially this time of the year.
Yeah.
So what's the good of it? I mean, why do you think that they're giving out all this quota now for us, and they won't give it to us in August?
I don't know.
Or September.
It's a good question.
I think, this is my opinion, the plants got too much say in what happens. The plants can't handle this amount of fish in August because they're still at the crab. Well, the problem is the capacity, of course. There's no capacity to handle this much fish and crab at the same time. So the plants must be telling the DFO, don't give them crowd no quota in the summer because we can't handle it. Give it to them the fall when we're finished with the crab and they can't fish it. Something like that. It got to be that.
You could be right. And now with the plant burning down in St. Mary's, that makes matters worse.
That was something else I was going to mention there too. I wanted to pass along my thoughts to the people in St. Mary's Bay. It's devastating for them, but it's also going to be devastating for the whole province.
Absolutely.
Because the capacity that they were doing last year, the 3 million pound or 8 million pound, whatever they done, that was took out of the other plants, which freed up a bit of time for them to take some catfish if we wanted to sell some. Now with one plant gone out of the system here, I mean we can't afford to lose one plant here now. Because the capacity is so bad, you take one plant out of it, well, it's going to be worse.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So that has a ripple effect right throughout the industry. Because last year, with St. Mary's plant up and operating, we were still talking about capacity. Because when the plants were going at the crab and the cod fishery was open, they weren't buying the cod. So obviously, if you take one major operation out of the equation, that problem is only going to be worse this coming northern cod season. Anything else you want to say, Ken, before I take a break for the news?
Well, one other thing, all these big processors there, there's a few of them around, but there's a lot more old fish plants that's left around too. These processors got all the old plants bought up and locked up, so nobody else can get them and open them and use them. So if they got to process it, if the government gives them a processing license to process fish in Newfoundland, and they're not doing it because they can't handle it in their crab plants, they should be forced to sell their plant, or the government take it and give it to someone to use it and open it up and let them buy the fish. You know, fish from Carbonear was trucked right across Newfoundland last year, right up Northern Peninsula, put on the ferry, shipped across the straits to a plant in Mary's Harbour, Labrador. They salted it, shipped it back again across the ferry. Then it had to go on another ferry, I guess, from North Sydney to get to the mainland to go down the States. Now, I'm only getting $1.18 a pound. So how much is that fish worth?
Another good question. I tell the same story all the time. There was one year for grade A cod at the wharf was 60 cents, and we went down south, and salt fish in the supermarket was $19.99 a pound. So there's people making money.
Yeah. So they're salted over in Mary's Harbour, buying it here on the wharf in Carbonear, and salted on the wharf in Mary's Harbour, and making. Well, they're not doing it for nothing. They're making a profit.
Oh yeah, of course they are.
Why can't there be if it's still to be like that around here?
Another good question, Ken. I wish I had more time. They're flagging me off for the news, but stay in touch.
Okay, Paddy. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Bye-bye. Yeah, I mean, let's see here. Let's get a break in. When we come back, we're talking Beta Nord, and then my buddy Seth Hyde is in the queue too to talk about the Seth and Maddie hat trick. What's that? We'll find out. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Good morning, Simeon Chekapesh. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. I just want to touch briefly on our nation situation, because right now we're in a dire straits, and I heard there's a lot of deficit, and there's a lot of people going to be laid off, and we hardly see our leadership now. They don't communicate with their constituents, and I think last week they boarded up Nation calling general election, and I think it's time that the board dissolved the power of Nation and call general election, because we're in trouble. And I think the leaders should call a public meeting and discuss what's going on and let us know what's going on. And during the election, they made all kinds of promises, like getting more funding, getting more stuff done with the Nation, but that was a magnificent prophecy that they made, but that was a big lie to us. And I think it's time that the Nation called general election, because a lot of people are really frustrated.
Simeon, what happened with the vote on the Hydro-Quebec compensation? I know
I heard there was a shortage of voters turnout in Shehadjit, but I believe now she's voted yes in favor with the agreement. So that was the last thing I heard, but I didn't hear from our leaders because they don't communicate, as I said.
Yeah, because, I mean, they didn't get the 60% turnout in Shehadjit, which means that we're just going back to court. I guess my specific question is, how much of the information campaign do you think was part of this vote? Because we understand there was members of Hydro-Quebec that were in Shehadjit and Nawashish talking about the compensation package. Then there was people only talking about the $87 million, not including the 3% dividend from the upper. So it felt like there was a lot of bogus information flying around.
Yeah, that was a big. The only thing I heard from the Nation during the Christmas last December, and that was they were going to call more meetings, but that never transpired, and I don't know what happened. And I think us as a constituents, voters, that we need to know what's really going on with our Nation organization. And really, we don't even hear nothing.
Yeah, that was an interesting one to me, because I don't know if it was a good deal or a bad deal, but I do know I heard a lot of people reach out to me and say there's so many people going around the communities simply saying that we're voting on $87 million, when that's just simply not true.
Yeah. No. I think it's, I don't know, the communications are not here. That's a big problem, because they don't communicate with us. A lot of people are very confused, and that's why I think the lower turnout in Shehadjit, because a lot of people don't get the right information that they need.
And fair enough. I mean, information's power. I appreciate the time, Simeon. Anything else this morning?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Appreciate the call. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and going back to court, look, that was in the courts for a long time, years and years and years, and now going back to court. And again, it's not for me to say. I'm not involved with that particular vote, but not even getting the turnout required in Shehadjit is just sort of a strange set of circumstances. Let's keep rolling here. Let's go to line number 4. Good morning, Seth Hyde. You're on the air.
Hello, Patty. How you doing today?
Great today, man. How you doing?
Oh, excellent. It's Friday. Couldn't be better.
Whew, TGIF, I can tell you that much.
Absolutely. Exams are done, so it's going to be a fun weekend for sure.
Great. Let's talk about the hat trick for Easter Seals. What's happening?
So myself and Matthew Squires, who's 16 years old, he goes to Gonzaga with me, and he has cerebral palsy, and he is nonverbal. But he absolutely loves the sport of hockey. And I got to know him really well at the Easter Seals summer camp in the summer of 2024. And he was sidelined from playing sledge hockey, the sport that he loves so much. And I wanted to gift him the chair that he needed. He needed a certain type of tomato chair to be able to play. So I reached out to his parents. I said, I'd like to, give him the chair with the Seth Hyde Sports Side Giving Back Initiative. And they said, no. They said, we don't need the chair. We got the financial ability to do it. But they said, why don't we try something bigger? So we started to brainstorm. We were like, what can we do to help more people that love hockey just as much as me and Matthew? So we decided to come up with the Seth and Maddie Hat Trick for Easter Seals campaign, which will raise money for Phase 3 of the Park Project at Easter Seals NL, which will build an outdoor hard court surface, which will freeze over in the winter for accessible sledge hockey, as well as house accessible equipment in a community outbuilding. So it'll be amazing for our community, and we want to get everybody playing hockey.
Absolutely. So how's the fundraising effort going to work? What are you doing?
So right now we're selling hats and accepting donations. We have toques and ball caps. And again, every donation counts. You don't have to buy a hat to make an impact. You can donate $2, $3 if you want to. You just did the Kids Eat Smart fundraiser the other day. Every single cent of money counts. So the hats are $25, $35. They come in a bunch of colors, and they're just in time for the winter season as well with the toques. So it's a hat trick for Phase 3. We're selling hats for Phase 3. You got to score 3 goals to get a hat trick. So it's been a fun campaign so far, and it ends on Monday at midnight as well. So you only got this weekend to get your hats for Christmas.
Well, you can count me in for a couple of toques. Where do I go to get one?
So you can find all the information at eastersealsnl.ca/Seth and Maddie's Hat Trick, and that'll take you to a little bit more of a backstory on the website, as well as the link to the store itself. And it's also on my Facebook page as well, Seth Hyde Sports Side on Facebook. I add everybody back. So if there's nobody out there that's my friend on Facebook, I add everybody back, and the information is there as well.
Yeah, good. I'll check it out for sure. Before we let you go, how's your season going calling the Newfoundland Regiment games? Because last week, some good performances between La Rose and La Berge and Danacek, all part of the Flow Hockey Team of the Week. So how's the experience so far, Seth?
Oh, Patty, it has been absolutely amazing, like a dream come true. I don't even see it as work, to be honest with you. I go in, and it's just so much fun up there with the great Brian Rogers up in the broadcast booth, and the guys are starting to roll. They had a bit of a tough start to the season, but now they're on fire. They're catching steam. The big guns are coming out, so they're going to be an exciting team to watch. And they're in action tonight and tomorrow against the Cape Breton Eagles, so it's going to be a great series.
Yeah, I mean, they're right in the middle of the pack, and they are catching fire at the right time. They're playing above 500 in the last 10, so that is encouraging to say the very least. So good on you. Congratulations. You do a great job with it. And the team's on a bit of a roll, as you say. Give us your initial takeaway of Ben Vitch and Quinn Norman, the two local boys on the team.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to know them for a long time, played hockey against them, played soccer with them. So they're multi-sport athletes just outside of hockey, but they're great guys. And I'm so happy that they're here in Newfoundland and Labrador, being able to play in front of their friends and their family. I'm just so happy for them. And Quinn is still looking for his first goal. I'm going to call it. He's getting it soon. I'm telling you right now, tonight, he's going to get it if he's back in time from Truro. He's going to get it. Yeah, they were in Truro playing in the U17 showcase. Terrific stuff. I played golf with both of them. They're lovely young men. And I can tell you what, on top of their skills, Vitch is huge. Oh, yeah. He is a monster out there. He might be a rookie, but Patty, he's not afraid to throw around the body. That's for sure. He's been fantastic. And Norman's footwork, boy, oh boy, exciting little hockey player there. Not little's not the right thing to say. And real baby face. They're two nice guys. Listen, Seth, good luck with Seth and Maddie's hat trick for Easter Seals. Folks, please do indeed take the opportunity to contribute. Get yourself a toque or a ball cap, or simply make a donation. And continued successes to you, Seth, in the play-by-play booth. Thank you very much. And just before I go, Patty, I'd just like to reiterate to all your listeners out there that hockey and sport is for everyone. And that's what me and Matthew want everybody to know, that no matter what you look like, what your ability is, what your gender is, you can play the sport you love, and you can be involved and make an impact in your community. Hear, hear. Good to have you on, Seth. Say hello to the family for me. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, Patty, and have a great weekend. The very same to you. Bye-bye. That young fella has a career in front of him in the play-by-play booth. Mark it down.
He really does. He's really good at it, and he's really young. He's just really nurturing his trade. So, love Seth. Let's take a final break of the morning and the week. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Let's go to line number 5. Clyde, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Paddy.
Morning.
Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, you had a bit of thing on there about paid north there a couple of weeks ago. It's come up there, and like I say, as a Newfoundlander, and I think you think the same way, we should get the most of our resources, and even if we're building big mega projects, we should get the most of that before it even goes offshore, you know, to get the jobs and put the revenue in the Newfoundland, right?
Yeah, and I mean, what that looks like, and we still don't even know when the final investment decision is going to be made by Equinor, but people are going to fight to maximise benefits here, and obviously so. I'm still a little bit confused why we're still, or I guess the Liberals were, stuck on having an equity stake. I really don't know what Premier Wakeham's position is on that. I probably should have asked him when I spoke with him last week. But yeah, I mean, I would imagine Equinor is going to, you know what, to get off the pot here in the relatively near future. But yeah, it's still a potential for a lot of revenue to be generated by Beta Nord, no doubt about it.
Yes, Paddy, I think it's 5 offshore platforms we had there all together, counting the expansion of sea rolls. I don't think she's pumping all there yet, but and this will be the 6th one, and it all comes in and goes to the States, get manufactured, and we ends up buying it back. I mean, it's kind of hard to get my head around it at times, you know, that we got all these resources when it comes to Newfoundland, Labrador, like you was talking about the mining there, and we got so much here. We got everything here, Paddy, but it seems like I tell people, we got everything, but it always seems like we don't get what we're supposed to get ever. Like we got nothing. We're always depending on somebody else and stuff, and always fighting for them for a few breadcrumbs, I call it, and then that's it. They makes the money out of it, and we get a few jobs offshore. That's it.
Yeah, it remains to be seen here. You know, they lean in a lot on topsides work here as opposed to just being thankful to get the subsea work. But I don't know how this is all going to work. And I still think when the federal government is kind of noodling around the edges here, they might play a role at some point. What that looks like is probably the hundreds of millions of dollars regarding Article 82. But that's an issue for another day, I suppose.
Yeah, there's a lot more politics and stuff than me and you'll probably ever understand. That's the thing behind it all, Paddy. But as me, as just a lay person here, I'm Bjorn Pitzel, about time. That's the way I look at it. I try to keep in Louisville on. I talk to a lot of people, and like I say, this reactions I get back from just talking to normal people, you know. And anyway, having said all that, like I said, just hope we get the most out of it. And I just got off now from 10-hour day on flagging there in construction, and thank people for their patience and that, and some people pay a bit more attention, and be safe out there, and hopefully all has a good weekend and the wind finally dies down.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of good news in the federal budget for your neck of the woods with the exploration tax credit for fluorspar. So who knows what that might mean for more activity at your fluorspar mine.
Yes, Paddy, that's what I say. I mean, we got it there, and the technology is there, and the quantity and the quality is there, so why not have a base, you know, that'll be keep people here on the Bjorn Peninsula. Then, you know, you got to have a long-term industry to keep people. Young people's not going to stay around for 1 or 2 years when they still got to go away. You know that yourself. You was on the mainland yourself, I think, in Alberta a few years, you know what I was all about.
Yeah, I was there for a decade. I appreciate the time, Clyde. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paddy. Glad to talk to you, and the things you do to try to help people, that's what we got to do. It's hard sometimes with some people, but we got to try to help each other if we can.
Absolutely
Take care,
right.
be safe.
You too. Have a nice weekend.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. So Conrad dropped. I don't know what happened there. Let's go to line number 1. Matt, you're on the air.
Hi, how's it going, Paddy?
Excellent. You?
You? Oh, not bad. Long-time listener. First-time caller.
Welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if anybody got any information about my cabin that was stolen.
About your what?
My cabin. It was stolen on Bad O's Barrens, kilometer 14. I'm just wondering if anybody might have seen it.
So I want to make sure you said your cabin?
Yeah, that's correct.
So first, you can turn down your radio to help us out here. And I'd be curious to know how a cabin gets stolen. Like, what does that mean? It was up on blocks and someone took the whole kit and caboodle, or what are we actually talking about?
It's her up on junks of wood, and I don't know, somebody put the place on wheels, and there she was gone.
How big is this cabin?
8x8, 10x10.
It's a strange old thing to have stolen, a cabin.
Yeah, not sure what or what anybody had in mind, but yeah, if anybody has any information, let me know. Reach out to me on Facebook or give me a call at 1709-248-5119.
Yeah, if anyone sees a cabin that they haven't seen before that just kind of appeared, maybe it's Matt's cabin. I wonder what would have been required to steal a cabin, like a flatbed truck and a crane, or what do you think happened here?
I have no idea.
Anyway, that's a strange one to wrap up the week, and hopefully it's effective in trying to get you back to your 8x8 or 10x10 cabin, and let's see what happens here, Matt. Anything else you want to talk about before we run out of time?
No, that's everything, Patty. You have a good day.
You too, pal. All the best. Bye-bye. I suppose I shouldn't be laughing. The poor fella had something stolen from him, but I think that's the first time we've heard about a stolen cabin. But, yeah, anyway. Final check-in on the Twitter box before we run out of steam and time here this morning. We're VOCM Open Line. You know what to do. You can follow us there. I keep getting told I should also join Blue Sky. Twitter's all bad enough. I don't know how good or bad it is over there. And I've also been encouraged to add Instagram to the show, which I probably should. And I've never had an Instagram account. I think my wife does. I know my puppy does, apparently. So that's fun. All right, email openline@vocm.com. All right, so next week, obviously, with the Remembrance Day coming, we will indeed have a show on Monday. We won't be here on Tuesday. And just another friendly reminder to get ready for Monday evening, 7:30 to 9:30, right here on VOCM. You can catch the Where Once We Stood, or what is it? Where Once We Stood, We Stand Again, or something like that. Anyway, it's a concert. We Stand on Guard. Right. That's a big concert coming up, so we're going to carry it here on VOCM. You can have an opportunity to enjoy the music and hopefully take an opportunity to make a donation to the Salvation Army's Wildfire Relief Fund. All right, good show today. Good shows all week. Big thanks to all hands, all the callers, listeners, emailers, and tweeters. You're all right. We will pick up this conversation again on Monday morning, right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy weekend. Talk Monday. Bye-bye.